when we had our budget meeting, we really didn't know what the state was going to do about those federal pandemic funds. I mean, Jason did a real good job with a wonderful guesstimate, but we really didn't know. Well, the state did come through with the money, because they had what they called maintenance of effort requirements, that we qualify to get that $2.3 billion in Wisconsin schools. They did come through with that. However, they didn't add anything. They increased the state general aids, but did not increase any of the revenue limits. So what that means is the additional state aid is kind of going to be swapped for local property taxes within the revenue limits, so no additional school district spending is going to be allowed. So we can't use any of that money for operational costs because it's got to go towards taxes. No, and I don't know, Jason, do you know what that 2.3 billion, what our share of that 2.3 billion is going to be?
So roughly ESSER 2 is right around 300,000. 300,000? ESSER 3 is right around 790,000.
Okay, so we stand to get $1 million for those, for the next biennium.
Yep,
correct?
And then with 100,000 from ESSER 1.
Okay, so, all right around there.
With restrictions on how we use it.
Correct. So ESSER 1 is
Right.
gone already, that's been spent, that grant has been closed. ESSER 2 will open July 1. And those are restricted funds, so they tell you what you can spend them on. And then ESSER 3 is also restricted funds.
Yep.
They can tell you what on. As of now, we are not in the school district requirement of reporting minutes for virtual versus on campus. So hopefully that stays and we'll be good. Otherwise, the dollar amounts can be affected by how many minutes students were at school versus virtual.
Okay. Well, the real kicker in this is we, when we met, they looked like they're going to have a $4 billion surplus in their budget, and it's really $5.8 billion.
Okay.
So they're asking, districts not to, really not can't spend anything when you've got all this extra money. Now, if districts can't, like you can't increase your funding, can't increase your spending, are they going to go to referendum? Well, if they go to referendum, that's not going to keep your property taxes down. So it's, it's just kind of like a vicious circle. But that's the way it's always been. I mean, that's really nothing new.
It's really too bad that they're using the crisis of a pandemic and the relief money to play a game with us in terms of covering our regular costs. No matter what you think about the relief money, it isn't, we can't like hire a teacher with it or pay our electric bill with it, or,
right.
All of our basic costs, don't change, and they're sort of just trying to say, you're getting all this money.
Well, the other thing that people don't think about is the fact that if it's going to go to property tax relief, you know what that's going to do to our mill rate, right? So it's one of our goals is to keep our mill rate stable. So they push all this money to property tax relief, and we're going to see this huge giant swing, right? So then we are going to look like the bad guys when we struggle to keep our mill rate flat, right? So it's the thing that is so overlooked, right? And you're spot on with the referendums, you're spot on with all that. But the other part where we always struggle, and it comes up all the time here, is when we want to keep our mill rate flat, right? In times when they're pumping billions of dollars in the property tax relief, right? Mm-hmm. So it's going to be, why aren't you going to drop the mill rate, Pat, to 0.7, right? If we did that, we might as well go back 65 years in time, because it would take that and some to get back to what we could spend today. So it's just a push, right, on who gets the blame for things, right? So the state legislature, they want to say, pat on the back, we gave you property tax relief. And then they want to be able to push that on us, because we're going to want to say, no, we need to at least keep our funding flat, right? And then the local people are gonna be like, what the, right?
Yep.
You can't save us all this money because nobody understands school funding.
No, because it's so backward.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it makes no sense. How many years have we been on the board?
And I
you
don't know if I
still
still
shake your
understand
head.
it.
Yeah.
It was as well as I probably should.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
They did put some things up, other things in the budget, though. They've got $86 million in next biennium for special education categorical aids. That would fund it at, reimburse it at the 28.2% that it is right now, I believe, and then 30%, I mean, it's not much. I would like to have seen them take some of that $5.8 billion and really do something good for special ed and mental health.
Didn't we say in the budget meeting that we were getting about 12%? So we're not getting 28% now.
Well, that's what it says. At the current level of 28.2.
Probably in some categories, right?
Oh, okay,
Remember, categorically.
They always make it look like they're.
okay.
So not universal across the board, in some categories, right?
Okay.
And they put an extra $9.5 million in for school-based mental health services, $6.2 million for sparsity aid, and then an extra $100 per pupil for districts that enrollment between 745 and 1,000, but the population density of less than 10 pupils per square mile. So I'm thinking that's not
Doesn't
gonna,
affect
and
us.
they're voting on the budget, the Assembly's voting on it tomorrow,
Okay.
and the Senate's voting on Wednesday. So, we'll see where that turns out. A couple of new rules for incumbent non-candidacy. If you don't file your candidacy, or if you miss the deadline, it's still gotta be posted, but then you can ask for a 72-hour extension in case somebody wants to, if you wait till the deadline and then you don't
Change
file,
your
well, so that you can extend that for 72 hours in case somebody wants to say, okay, I'll throw my name in the hat. Yep, and let's see, what else is here? Oh, and then there has been, somebody introduced some legislation to ban critical race theory. That's a hot topic in all over the nation right now, in the state of Wisconsin. So I did a little research on that, and I don't know if that warrants a discussion here at some point or not, but we'll see.
We don't have it. I mean, I think it's another hot button issue where it's really not an issue at all in most schools. I think
They're
it's
just trying to make it an issue.
make it an issue.
I think that, if you teach your history correctly, and you look at both sides of history, the good and the bad, because there's both, there's two sides of it, this is probably a non
There was an
event.
excellent school board meeting, and I want to say South Carolina, and the superintendent said exactly that.
Oh.
Just that if you do things,
Excuse me, Nick, could you talk up, please?
said if you do that and you teach things that the way we've always been doing that, and he went through it really well, all of that is covered, so we don't need to have a hot button talking point and change our curriculum when in reality, we've been doing this for years. To me, it's another distraction, but whatever.
But it sure gets a lot of press.
Well, absolutely, because it's divisive, and it's
It is
Gets people
a lot
divisive.
of
riled up.
passion around certain topics.
So,
Well, I am very disappointed in the Joint Finance Committee. It feels like they're toying with us all the time. I mean, they had all the districts put all sorts of time into testifying and hearings and everything. And then it just felt like, okay, they did what they had to do by holding hearings, but went right into just not looking at anything anybody said.
Well-
And that's very frustrating.
Well, a lot of, I agree with you, why would they not use the recommendations from the Blue Ribbon Commission?
Their own
That
Blue
they are the ones that sponsored it. So I can imagine there's some, upset legislators too, why do we do all this work
Oh,
then
right.
when we don't even take our own recommendations from our own Republican-backed Blue Ribbon Commission? I mean, I would say Joel Kitchens is one of them, right? He talks about a lot of the things that we talk about as necessary in order for schools to move forward, and none of it is in this budget.
Well, don't be surprised if it gets on the governor's desk and it gets vetoed.
I
would,
And also the other thing that you have to remember in Wisconsin is the governor has line item veto power. So, I mean, he can go line by line, word by word. So if there are things that, if there's room to do that, I'm certain that'll be done. But if he can't do it to the point of, satisfaction or compromise or whatever, then I would think that's a high likelihood that it'll be another cat and mouse, push it off, here we go. Why do we need to do that? I don't know, but.
I might be talking about the budget proposal next month.
Yes, you might be.
Something tells me I think you might be.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we will move on. Ceasar Report, Mick.
Oh, not too much. It was our annual dinner meeting. We had it at Fox Hills. Jeff's last day will be June 30th of 2022, so he's going to hang on for about another year. And talking to Colleen Tim during the social part of it, she's very aware that we started our own charter school, and they do 4 workshops a year, free to school districts that do have charter schools, to help them with rules, regs, stay in compliance. So I said, oh, it's good to know, maybe resource for us if we need to utilize that, right?
I bet you the Wisconsin Resource for Charter Schools would like to know that. But anyway, I appreciate that.
And we do expect to start looking at applications by October and have someone in place by January 1.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll let you know how that's leaning.
Huh. And then they'll just be training until June with,
I'm not really sure what he's gonna do until June.
Huh.
I'm not
Okay.
really sure.
all right,
Who knows?
we'll see. Any questions for Mick? Okay, we are now at citizens delegation to be heard. If there is anyone online that has something they would like to discuss today or present to the board, please speak now. This is your opportunity. Again, citizens delegation to be heard. State your name and topic if you are on the line and have something you would like to present. Hearing none, we will move on. Board president announcements. I guess I don't have anything to say other than what a year. And hopefully this next one will be a lot smoother. If we can get all this budget stuff all ironed out, that would be great. Okay, moving on to administration reports. Nick?
So when you walked in the doors today, you obviously saw some things going on in the building. There are parts of the building that are completed already, so if you walk around, you can see what it's going to look like in some spots, and then if you like looking at wires, you can walk just about anywhere now, and you can see the miles upon miles and upon miles of wires. So coinciding, obviously, the lighting and all that stuff. I think it's going really well. Kind of a fun crew to have around, or a bunch of young guys. So they listen to music real loud and they get stuff done. So
All right.
nice to have them around. And then there's just, again, a big thank you to our custodial crews down at the elementary as well as here. I think it's one of the things that we should be super proud of is that our buildings look really great inside and out all the time. Obviously, we're in a construction project now, but they do a great job all the time, so I appreciate them. Also, hope you got to see the Mobile Resource Center out in front of school. We got that back. It is set to go out on its kind of maiden community voyage on Thursday, I understand. So we have a number of things planned for that this summer to get that out in the community exposed and kind of teach people all of the things that'll be going on with that.
So what'll be happening on Thursday?
Amanda Berrigan will be taking it out. I don't know where specifically she's going, but I was just told that today, so Teal can maybe help me.
Just to be clear, all that money for that Mobile Resource Center was done with grant money, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Just want to verify that.
Yes, most innovations that we do not come from school funding or tax dollars. Let that be known, community of Algoma. Pastor Jen, the Methodist Church does give out backpacks, meals, and our community youth advocate transports the meals to some of our families who do not have transportation to get them. So she will be using the Mobile Resource Center for that purpose on Thursday. But the Mobile Resource Center is going to be very versatile. Our new librarian can use it when they go on field trips. It's going to be resourced. Jesse's going to be really helpful with that. We have some computers, Chromebooks to be put inside so that if students go down to the beach, for example, and they're doing some sort of activity, a pod of students can hop on, research something, come on off. The Mobile Resource Center, our librarian can be on staff to really bring that to life. And then one of our marketing partners had a really great idea that we didn't even think about, but to really utilize the Mobile Resource Center in any farmer markets or like the Rustic Coop or any events where we can pull up. And it has pods on the inside, and we can create pods of different offerings and services that we have to the community. So a pod could have Wolf Tech information and some of our products. Can you hear me?
Can you hear Teal, Dave?
And then it can have like the abilities, if they're selling things or whatever, any way that we can promote what we are doing, things about Venture Academy or Pathfinder, just kind of like a setup shop. I don't know if you've seen those trailers where they take products outside, like food trucks, or now they have clothing centers. We want to make it like that, so we're taking, our education and what we have to offer out to the community and beyond, so it's visible.
And I
So
love,
just really purposing it. And then in the back part, if you can take a tour today in the back, oh no, it's not here, is it? Is it here? Oh,
Steve said he was moving it.
okay.
I don't know if it's still out there or not, is it?
In the back part, there is a soundproof area that we're going to be getting an MOU from the state for our mental health to be in there, so students that maybe are homebound or staff that would like to connect to a therapist can come out of school, go onto the Mobile Resource Center, go to the back area of the center, and it's kind of a place that's not within our school walls, that they could connect virtually with a therapist, so.
in a
Just
private
really-
manner.
In a private manner, so just really thinking how we could have utilized that resource in a very different way. And again, this is coming out of the Community Youth Advocate Grant that we have with Kewaunee County. We had some significant funds left over due to COVID, and we have a presentation with the state in about 2 weeks on the Mobile Resource Center, so they're very interested in what we've done with that, so I'm sure there's more to come.
And I love the paint job. It's,
Stickers.
well, the stickers,
Yeah.
the message,
Yeah.
let's put it that way. I love the message.
So exciting to have that around. Staffing is always interesting, especially now with some kind of 11th hour resignations. But on the other side of that, every time that happens to us, I'm kind of amazed at what happens thereafter and the quality of candidates that we get. For one of the positions, I think we hit a home run on. For another, we have a list of, that's very deep, and people that we feel like are very, very highly qualified. So at other times where we get one or no applicants, it's exciting to see that and then have some wiggle room with how we end up staffing that. But I can, I can foresee us having conversations with some of these people about, they're just high quality enough that maybe they would consider other positions. Because not everybody can teach social studies, right? But if you get 10 really great applicants there and they have
Madam
other
President?
interests.
Yes, Dave?
I'm gonna have to speak up, I just can't hear you. Nick.
I'll do my best, Dave.
Okay.
So,
Pretend you're mad at me.
I don't have anything to be mad at him about. So, yeah, that's staffing. I think a lot of people are in much worse situations than we are. So, yeah. Last thing I want to say is, we were excited to get the grant for our charter school, $535,000. I was just in the committee meeting prior to this. I get really frustrated when I hear about people telling me that we don't do things in this district and all that, and yet when you look at our agendas every month, every single month, we bring money into this district to help our kids, right? And I think we're in a position now where that's really how we drive a lot of things. And instead of criticizing things, they should be appreciative of what we do have, and the fact that we don't always go to our taxpayer and ask them to fund things. So just something, again, that, some people like it, some people hate it, but I know the path that I'm on, and I think it's just another positive thing that's only going to grow for our district, and I think it's going to be a good thing for certainly all the kids that are in it currently and all the kids that will join it moving forward. And then lastly, it's just, good people working really hard to get money for our district. So I appreciate that.
Questions, comments for Nick? You are going to be giving Katie's report also?
I am.
Okay.
Bear with me, it'll be a read. Achievement gap reduction, AGR, used to be SAGE. The goal progress in both reading and math varied across each grade level, K through 3. In second and third grades, both reading and math goals were met. In kindergarten and first grades, both goals were partially met. Most importantly, students across all grade levels made individual growth in both assessment areas. Throughout the year, we continued to adjust in order to meet the needs of our students who were learning in person, virtually, and through a hybrid schedule. This includes academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs. Analysis of virtual versus in-person learning results, I guess. In the fall, 25% of our students were learning virtually and or through hybrid. In the spring, that was just 5% of students were learning virtually and hybrid. And then a summary of all of that information, that in-person learners had slightly higher proficiency percentages in both reading and math than that of virtual learners. However, there was no significant discrepancy between virtual and hybrid and in-person learners. Overall, 3% proficiency difference between virtual and in-person in reading, and then 7% between virtual and in-person in math. So a difference, but not something that people would suggest where, half or whatever, so less than 10%.
I think we should give a thank you to the staff for that, because it was a tremendous job for the staff to come up with managing the virtual as well as the in-person, and to have the results where there was no real statistical difference in their learning is phenomenal. And we have to thank them for all that effort, because I know it was really
I agree.
a challenge for everyone. So.
I don't want to be a donor on this, but I just got to ask, the kids, did they take their end of the year testing? Did they take, the kids that were doing virtual, did they take it at home?
No.
Or they take
I
it in
don't-
school?
No, I think all the assessments are
come to
administered
school.
at school.
They had to come to school for it? Okay, all right.
Emotional well-being survey, fewer students flagged, 7% difference as being at risk on the My Sabres social, academic, emotional, behavioral risk screener at the end of the year as compared to the beginning of the year, so.
Can you tell me that number again, Nick, sorry?
So 7% difference as being, fewer students were flagged. Which, again, goes on the line what you're saying, Barb, in a year where that was kind of front and center, those are all really good results,
Yes.
despite,
That relationships were
Yeah.
maintained, that the teachers were creative and kept the kids that were home involved enough that, yeah.
because that's the other part too, we didn't force kids to be home, people
Right.
opted to be home, so.
Right.
Yeah. That's all I had to read, so I think her report is done.
Okay, all right. We'll move on then. Middle school, high school principals report and Pathfinder update. Katie?
Well, Nick kind of touched on our staffing, what's kind of going on there, but we really have an entirely new middle school team except for one teacher. So it'll be really interesting to get some fresh new perspectives on, I guess, our middle school and our kids that are there. We did hire an English teacher and math teacher so far. We're still looking for social studies and special ed. We've got a good perspective person for special ed, but we have 5 interviews, I believe, on Wednesday for our social studies. But like Nick said, we got 20 applicants for social studies, which was crazy.
Yeah.
As opposed to the 2 that we got from math. So it's just been really an interesting hiring process. But the candidates that were interviewing Wednesday look to be pretty awesome, so I'm excited for that. Summer school at the high school, we had 21 kids from the high school sign up for summer school. 17 of those attended, and all 17 got completed what they needed to get completed for summer school, which is really great. It's just kind of an extra, our summer school is kind of like an extended school year, so they didn't get stuff finished during the year, they have the next 2 to 3 weeks to get it completed and get their credits, so I was pretty excited about that. And Pathfinder, I don't really have much, I think we have 3 new kids signed up already for next year, so.
Okay. Questions for Katie? Hearing none, we'll move on. Business managers report. Jason?
Start off with closing out this year. So Fund 10 transfer to Fund 27 for this year will be $793,125.24. Just a reminder, the reason why we do that is because Fund 27 has to basically balance to 0. So we're taking that money from our general and moving it into our special ed to make the accounts balance to 0. Recommending a Fund 10 transfer to Fund 46 of $75,000, which was approved in the October 2021 budget. So Fund 46, it's basically our capital improvement fund. So we spent that down to complete the boiler project and the solar panels and all that kind of stuff this year. So this is replenishing it for any future projects, possibly the track or whatever. Any questions on, actually, if I can get you to flip the page, just one page. I'm not going to cover this right away, so we'll be done with this year's. So these are the budget amendments for this current school year. You will see 3 of them. First is $53,017, which is an updated amount for per pupil and supplemental aid. The second one is a recoding of the Kewaunee County grant from 990 to 291. So DPI asked us to change our coding on that. And the last one is an additional revenue adjustment of $129,850.70, which is ESSER 1. So that's why that wasn't in the budget, because didn't know ESSER existed when you create the budget. And additional money for SAGE. So those would be the budget adjustments that you'll be looking to approve in action. Any questions on this current year's budget and numbers? Okay. Next year's budget. So here again, very preliminary budget. So obviously, without knowing what the state's gonna do, hopefully we'll have more information, but you don't know what the governor's gonna do, so here again, these are the numbers that I presented to the committee. So we can cover them in any detail that you want. I can either just go over the highlights of the cover sheet here, or we can go through the budget that I sent to you guys.
What would the rest of the board, I mean, the finance committee went through everything. As he said, this is so preliminary, it could all change, so. Headings on his report, would that be enough going through?
Okay. So starting off, elementary school, the 21-22 numbers for the entire elementary school is $3,058,241, which is a slight increase of over last year, which is basically raises is really what the primary thing is there. For the most part, everything else stayed the same. Algoma Middle School, you'll see that it dropped down to $217,444. That's due to my projection of new teachers coming in versus old teachers going out and a difference in pay. The high school, here again, $2,410,297. Last year was $2,736,427. So that number, the reason why it dropped was because this year we don't have the big building projects that we had last year. So that's why the number dropped. AVA, which is a new school. So if I say school 500, that's AVA, which is Algoma Virtual Academy. They have a budget of $153,000 as of now. So obviously nothing compared to last year. District, $3,038,538 versus $3,014,833. There again, primarily just wage increases for the district. Overall budget, $8,877,520 versus $8,950,704. Primary difference being the building projects. Building projects, solar panel, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, questions, comments for Jason? All right.
Jason, just one question. What is this St. Mary title, St. Paul title? What is that?
So we get grants, and we get Title I, Title II, Title III, which are, so for example, Title I is reading. So we have to provide X amount of dollar services to St. Paul's or St. Mary's,
Okay,
and it's in those values.
yep. So it's all open.
We're not really exchanging money, it's just that we have to provide X amount of time to those schools in that dollar value.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jason? Okay, thank you. Moving on to special ed report.
Maria's still on maternity leave, but the only thing we really have for special ed is just kind of finishing up year-end paperwork, and our audit starts July 1st, so, once Maria gets back from maternity leave, her and I will be tackling that. It's not really the most fun thing to do, but it happens every 5 years, so, we will get a team together actually and go over whatever IEPs and re-evals they pull for us.
Is that a state audit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it usually takes quite a while, but we'll get it done. That's all I really have for special ed.
Okay. Live Algoma monthly update. Teal.
So I brought this, I don't have a copy for everybody, but the US Venture Open. So US Venture has been one of our biggest funders for the Algoma School District. They have a goal voting this year. Last year, they just did a virtual fundraising and raised like 4.5 million, I think, just for a virtual impact. This year, they're doing a Gulf voting. We will be recognized in both a video and an in-person interview on site at the Gulf outing this year, which is a really big deal. We're going to be talking about our Live Algoma efforts, but also what that looks like as a regional effort and how we could maybe work with another community, help support them in what we're doing. And I wanted to just make note that in the last 3 years, I was perusing through the pages because their report out of what they funded this last year. We have received $603,000 in 3 years by US Venture. So that, and we are one of the, I think, because I've looked at this many times, but I could be wrong, but I think we are the only entity that has received that much money in such a short amount of time. So that is all of Northeast Wisconsin. So Wolf Den, now Garden Program, the regional grant that we have is all funded by this and more. So I just want people to know that it is not taxpayer dollars what makes all of this stuff happen. It's definitely people who are seeing the good work that we're doing and funding all of our efforts. Which then brings me to some other things. I'm on the Community Development Committee it's a subcommittee of the City Council of Algoma. And we are putting together welcome packets that will hopefully be going out through Algoma Utilities for new families or individuals that come live in our Algoma boundaries. And included in that welcome packet, we have been asked to put together some information about us being an All-America City awardee, a Culture of Health awardee, and then also our Wolf Review, our end-of-the-year Wolf Review that we're currently working on. Will be included in that welcome packet so that anybody who comes, maybe who doesn't have a student that's currently enrolled in our district, because we have welcome packets, but they'll be able to get that in a mailing in their household. I think that's pretty great.
Yeah.
And then our banners, our good old All-America City banners, hopefully will be here and installed and on our light poles by Shanty Days so that we can show them off. So those are just some things from Live Algoma. And then I'll just, well, if you have questions, I have on that.
Where's the golf outing and when is it?
The golf voting, help me, Katie, the US Venture Open.
August 11th.
August 11th is the golf voting, yes, oh, here, right here. August 11th, there is about 8 different golf courses that they use. It's mostly in the Fox Valley area. And the famous person, do you remember her?
Charlize Theron.
I do remember. Charlize is the
Guest of honor.
guest of honor. We had met Matthew McConaughey when he was here last time, so they always have a big famous guest that comes. And, you know, if you make a hole-in-one, you get a new Ferrari, so there's that, if anybody wants to sign up for the golf outing.
Given, be right there.
So, yeah, good times.
Okay, moving on to Algoma Venture Academy.
I wanted to talk about our governance board members. I'm not quite sure everybody knows who they are, so I'm gonna just update everybody on who the board members are for Algoma Venture Academy. Our board president is Joan Gressel. You've seen Joan here probably annually for a long time. She helps us with data and tracking and those sorts of things. Patrick Robinson is our vice president. Our secretary is Adam Paranto. Adam Paranto is, he worked for Door County Medical Center, but is really involved with our students' labeled disabilities, and is a pretty good fundraiser himself, owns his own nonprofit. And then we have Seth Robertson, who is our treasurer. He is a licensed CPA, so that will be helpful on our governance board. And then we do have Greg Vandenberg, who is the director of US Venture Foundation, who is on our board as well. He does not have an official officer role, but he is definitely part of our board member team and brings not only support for what we're doing with the charter school, but he is also on a charter board in the Fox Valley region, so he has good experience on charter schools. Our contract was submitted to the state of Wisconsin. We've not necessarily, we've heard back once that we had a little slight date change. That was about half a day long of figuring that out. But other than that, we're good. Our governance board has established their 501c3 status. So things in that nature is operating just fine. To Nick's point before, we did receive a very large grant. So added that to our $603,000, that's about $1 million in 3 years, just generated from outside funds. With that said, right now, we have a lot to do with fine-tuning our budget with that. It is a grant from the DPI Charter Division, so we need to make sure that all of our line items say what they need to say and that we have allowable costs. So we're working on that currently. I do want to encourage the ad hoc committee for Algoma Venture Academy to sign up for their conference days. It's July 27th and 28th, and I will forward you information about that. But it is from the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools, and they have many things that you can learn as an authorizing entity, like endorsing charter school autonomy to ensure that your charter school continues to have autonomy that it needs to innovate, resources for you to promote and advocate for the charter school in the district, and things like creating goals for the charter school's success and how to incorporate success into your legacy school. So how do you learn from the innovation of the charter school, and how do you incorporate best practices in the traditional school?
This is virtual, right?
This is virtual,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, so you can kind of pick and choose, which is good, what you want to see, what you don't want to see. But I really encourage you to get that. Nick will be, there's certain people that are definitely required to attend because we have to get competencies. But if you attend and you gain competencies, that will only help the authorizing entity of the school district. So I'll forward you that information. And then last but not least, we currently have 19 enrolled students. I anticipate signing on 2 more that I know of in the next 2 weeks. So that will bring us to 21. We're also working on the design of Venture Academy in the spaces that we have available for us. One area will be in this middle room here, and it's going to be very project pod-like, still working with our partners and the CNC machines and MCC, and expanding our partnerships. We work with other local retail entities and businesses like the Country Cupboard, so we're developing spaces where community members can come in and we can collaborate with them and the needs that they have and get our students involved that way. And then just Abigail Robinson is doing a phenomenal job just doing all sorts of things, but mostly meeting with our parents and guardians and ensuring that we answer any questions that they have. And I will say we've had 3 so far. Jennifer was one, but we have 3 so far, and I think it's really helpful talking with them about that, because there's still questions, and there's going to be lots of questions about what the charter school even is. So I would encourage anybody from the board or anybody who is questioning something to really have a conversation with myself and Abigail, and we can go through what we're sharing with parents and guardians and youth. I think after that you get a pretty good sense of how it's a little bit different and a really good thing for the Algoma School District to have an additional learning pathway. And I'm complete.
Any questions? All right, moving on to committee reports. We had 2 committees meet. The Finance Committee we'll start with.
Well, kind of talked about the finance and the budget. Like I said, Jason did a very good job of guessing what the numbers are going to be. And who knows, we might the budget might look altogether different depending upon what happens with that budget and the governor, but we did go through the thing, and we are asking the board to approve the budget for the coming school year.
Okay. Public relations, marketing.
Oh, we had a very exciting,
All right.
I think you all have this now. This, Jason West has put together this website just for us to look at. Teal was very impressed with him when he went to Michigan, correct? And when they looked at our website, I think you gave us a little comment on that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a serendipitous connection, but when Nick and I went to 5 Healthy Towns to visit, they of course were not the people who asked us to go there, but the people that they work with and others that we visited were researching us prior to us coming, which is a typical thing others do, and they had no idea. They hear about us, they know about us, but have no idea looking at our school district website what we stand for. And we were connected with, at the time, 5 Healthy Towns was also redeveloping their website for the same purpose, and we were connected with their website developer. So, and he had said the same thing.
You know, we need some new eyes to look at what's happening here. And you spoke about it again, that our taxpayers don't know what we're doing. You spoke about that also. And that's kind of one of the main reasons we need to look at the website. New people coming or looking at our school district, we need to let them know what is going on in this school district. And we definitely need to let our taxpayers know.
Yep.
I mean, we've had rumors flying around on we're not doing this, we're not doing that, why are you doing that? And we need to let people know what we are doing. And gosh, we have a school district that's exciting, it's wonderful, and we have to let our taxpayers know that. And so we had a motion to recommend that we go with Jason, but that will have to be in the July meeting.
Right.
But look this over.
So he'll develop the website. Who
Yes.
will maintain it?
That's being worked on.
Okay,
And
'cause
there's
that was-
possibilities,
yeah. That's like
I know.
an integral part of the whole
Right.
formula is once you have it, keeping it updated and.
Well, it looks like that's always been the problem.
Yeah.
Whoever who's been doing the website is, they don't get they don't get the information from us, so how can you update it if they don't have the info? So that's a communication issue.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about that just from my experience personally this year, which is probably why I'm more personally invested in the marketing of our school district ever before. But when COVID happened, we really needed to streamline communication because you would think virtually that would be easy, but it's actually harder because you're inundated with emails, different modes of communication, class dojo, remind. There was no streamlined process. So I was very aggressive in finding a way that we could streamline important information that we wanted to execute. And Nick did a great job this year. Every week, he sent out a communication letter. And yes, it had a narrative about what was happening, but around Nick's letter were all hyperlinks of things that were relevant to our elementary school, our middle high school, district, sports, food service, whatever, it didn't matter, it was there, it was linked. And what happened with that is it was just a one-stop shop for the most primary information that you needed. Now that doesn't stop there, we have digital boards, right? So how does information get from there onto a digital board? So we had to think of a process with that. And that now is bringing us to a website. when you go to the website, there's so much information on the website, and we don't know where to find that information sometimes. So we have to be very critical about why are people going to our website? Whether it's a new family or an existing enrolled family, we need to think about why they're coming. So an existing family, most times for me, I go to see the menu. Maybe I want to see what's happening for lunch tomorrow, or I want to fill out a form, get a transcript, register my student. Those are primary reasons why an existing parent want to go. A new family, if they go to our website, what do we even stand for? I mean, this is a time that we need to really market our district, especially because of COVID. We have families that are moving. They are moving out of bigger districts, and they want to be in rural areas. And if we're not thinking about crafting our story, both people who have rumors, but also people who want to know, I think it's really a disservice for us as a school district. So I agree, Pat, that we have to think about our process. I was transparent. This is opening up a whole sort of can of worms that need to be addressed internally, that's beyond the website. But I think it's necessary work that needs to be done, and it's critical for us moving forward.
Will they do the updates and the maintenance?
They can, there's an
It
ability.
says it's like $100 a month?
Yeah, that's just for, to ensure, like, I'm not really sure. I'd have to ask, like, pull Jesse into the language of that, but yeah, there's like maintenance of like the website, not updates of
Information.
Yeah,
Oh.
and this is, again, this is just someone that we are connected with, so, you know, I'm kind of a stars align kind of girl. When I see someone that speaks up and they're interested, it was a presenting to you guys on an option. But there is like a phase 2 of this. Phase 1 is just the standard static things that have to be on a website.
Mhm.
And then there's phase 2, and that's calendars or events or blogging, news articles. Those are things that are, you know, come on, come off, come on, come off. That's an internal process that we have to figure out, that I would like to streamline with communication letter. It should really, truly all be connected, in my personal opinion. But department head should be reporting to a central location that's internal or wherever, but that's a phase 2. This is just solely to redesign.
But I think to go a little bit further, I mean, I think everybody on the committee, everybody internally understands that at the end of the day, you still have to have a person in the district who works here every day doing it, right? So we think we have that. Obviously, much of the communicating that I do needs to be a part of that. So that person needs to be aligned and working with me. And we've tested out some things already with that particular person, and I think we've been more than pleased with their efficiency. And we feel like, you know, it wouldn't be an overwhelming process for them, and it would be something that they could also take pride in, right? That's their thing that they can do. So, that being said, though, I mean, it's something that you'll always have to watch, right? Because one of the things that I learned, you know, being an athletic director long ago, is like the things that take the most time are the most simple, mundane, awful tasks, right? And we need to have a process for all that, where it's literally a click of the button, here it is, because you get asked the same question 413 times, right? And if we're always having some type of personal response to it, rather than having something that's already populated, already done, it's automatically updated, is really just a shift from an archaic model to one that is just much more responsive to what we're doing. And I think from the weekly communications, I think we can move that forward. You know, I don't think everybody reads them, because when you hear the rumors that are going around town, it's like, obviously you don't connect with anything that the school district pushes out, you just make up your own stories. So we have to figure that out, because those people, for whatever reason, right, they like telling stories that aren't true, and we have to fight against that. We have to be actively telling our stories so that it's not this distorted story that's out there all the time. So.
Yeah, well, it's been pretty obvious that the website has needed attention. And it was also, I'm sure it came to a head this last year because of, COVID, pandemic, and all the craziness with the school. But it was also a time where we weren't gonna push over, everybody trying to just get through the day and educate the kids over the brink by saying,
Yeah.
fix this now and figure out who's gonna do it. But yes, it's a need.
And we were just connected, Eric, with this individual because they said, holy cow, I didn't even know what the school district stood for. We were seeing a new website they designed, and we were like, wow, this is a very user-friendly website that tells the story. And I shared today that if, this is something that we definitely decide in July, there's gonna be stakeholders like Jesse and our building secretaries that are gonna be really vitally important to this process going forward if we decide to redesign our website and all that entails, so. This was just more to show you what could be possible with a new website.
It's our thinking out of the box.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll take a look at it.
Be sure that goes on the agenda first.
So that will be on next month, yes. Okay, other specific items for discussion. We have school board convention, January 19th to the 21st, 2022. Do we know if it's going to be in person or virtual?
We do not. So this is just basically an announcement that those are the dates that they've selected. I do believe that it probably will be both, but no one said for sure when we're going to begin. But just sort of giving you the dates as a heads up.
All right.
All the
Yeah.
vendors could be virtual. Sorry. I shouldn't have said that out loud.
Next item for discussion, open meetings to the public. Obviously, we have been citizens delegation only by phone for a long time now for the safety of everybody involved. CDC recommendations, you see it everywhere, are, people can gather, especially, if you're vaccinated, with other vaccinated people, and recommendation is vaccinated people, masking is more optional, and unvaccinated, they are still recommending masks. I would like to be able to open up. I think
we need to open up. Yeah, me too.
I think it's a difficult forum for people to try and feel like contacting us over the phone. We would be back on cable then. I think that it was amazing to me how many people watched on cable. So I think that in itself would be good. From a standpoint of, what's the general feeling?
I think it would be a good idea. I'm open to that.
Everybody pretty much is.
Yeah, people call in, but you still don't get the conversation, the dialogue that you would get by sitting out here, and you don't understand them. I mean, I have a hard time understanding on the phone, so,
Yeah, so they're reluctant to even call in.
Yep.
I think that's what's we're probably missing people's concerns. Case in point, that was brought up by our board members tonight, is that we are sort of in limbo in the school district policy relating masking, because we had a policy through the end of the school year, summer school. So now we are in that in-between limbo state. We will be having to define very specifically our policies before the next school year. But what is the feeling of this in-between time? I mean, to go along with our opening up to the public. Any comments?
as far as masking,
Masking
I think masking should be optional.
based on,
based on your personal feeling. I mean, if you feel that that mask is what you need to do, then by all means, wear a mask.
Other thoughts?
I think if we're talking about events at which children who are ineligible to be vaccinated yet are attending, then those who are unvaccinated need to be protecting our unvaccinated children.
Can you say that again? Because it's hard to understand with the masks. Can you say that again?
I believe that if we're talking about events in which there are children under the age of 12 who are as of yet ineligible for vaccination, then we should be doing everything in our power to protect their health, including having a masking policy, especially for those who are as of yet unvaccinated.
So you don't think that should be a parental decision?
If my child is at school and there are adults there around them who are unvaccinated, I would want them to be masked.
Well, and I think those are going to be big issues that we have to work through very carefully for this coming school year. I mean, right now, we're talking about our meetings here. Typically, there aren't young people at these meetings.
But there could be.
There could be. I guess the other thing is, this gets into when, you know, parents certainly have certain rights to make decisions about things. But as a school district, I mean, this is sort of what we tried to work through last time. As a school district, it's incumbent upon us to try and have a safe space based on some level of expertise advice. So I guess I would personally be most comfortable with just following the CDC. I mean, Menards does it. I mean, we're not going to be checking people at the door or asking them if they've been vaccinated or anything, but asking people that haven't been vaccinated to please wear a mask, and if you've been vaccinated, that is optional. And again, we're not going to be grilling anybody on it, but it sort of protects us from anything if we have that as a policy of people coming in, that if anybody tries to say that they came to a meeting and got sick and we didn't have any policy, that we can say, hey, we're following current guidelines. I mean, that's sort of my feeling about it.
But then there's the question of natural immunity. I know you and I differ on natural immunity. The Cleveland study just said if you have natural immunity, you don't need a vaccine. I know what the CDC says, but I personally don't have too much faith in the CDC. They've been wrong too many times. But that's my personal opinion.
But we have to go by, yeah, we can't just, I mean, our personal opinions won't matter if somebody tries to argue that they got sick at one of our meetings.
Well, I think maybe we need to put this on the agenda, and then maybe that's why we need to have our meetings opened up, because this could be a hot topic.
Well, that's where I'll interject though, because I think that's exactly what we don't need, is to have a bunch of people come in and raise holy hell when the reality is that the reality is that you're going to see optional masking policy throughout, right? Because it protects on one hand, and then on the other, it gives choice, right? And I think people are just salivating at coming to meetings and videotaping themselves screaming at people like me.
Looking for a fight.
But that's true.
No.
It's true.
Well,
right? They want
it's
to
all
come-
over the country. It's all over the country.
I know,
Yeah.
but it's here too, right, Pat? So they want to come in here and do that so that people in Algoma can see that, look, we got to scream at Nick or whatever. Which, in my opinion, I don't know where it gets us. So if we have from now until school starts, okay, and we have right now, we have finished summer school. We are, basically operating, if you are vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask. If you are unvaccinated, right? We also don't have the police walking around and, asking for anything like all of the conspiracy theorists say, right? So we need to get to a point where we can collectively move forward. If collectively moving forward is having, optional, it's at your discretion, then that's where I land. Because the last thing that I want to spend my time doing is sitting and arguing about whether or not somebody has a mask on their face, because it doesn't do anything for me personally, and it doesn't do anything for them either. And that's my point. And we just finished a school year in which we spent every single day in person, and yet people want to come here and punish us for it. I don't get that. Right? I read open enrollment paperwork and, we're going to go to this place because this and this and fine. It's choice. We have choices. Everybody has choices. So that's kind of where I stand. But if we're going to make policy so that people can come in here and scream at us,
Right, and nitpick about it.
I
Well, I
think
guess,
that's, what are we doing here?
yeah, I guess I could go with that. We could recommend unvaccinated people but masking is optional.
I mean, you look at basically every large entity around us, right, is in some way, shape, or form moving in the right direction, right? And the few that are holding and saying in certain circumstances, right, it's a local thing, right? They can do that, right? But I just think as we get further and further throughout the summer, where numbers are naturally going to increase on the number of people that are vaccinated, right? You're going to have the argument of, what's the threshold, right? What's the threshold? So I don't necessarily know that I want to spend hours and hours at a school board meeting hashing out the difference between 60 and 64% versus 64 and 68%, or whether a third grader has a mask on and the fifth grader doesn't. I don't care. Like, I want to get back to normal as much as I can too, right? And I would like to think that, we can do that, but that takes everybody. And if, I think people should be careful what they wish for. That's what I think.
Where do we stand? Jason, you gave those proposals on those air purifying systems. Where are we standing on that? I mean, it's something, it helps kill this virus or whatever. So where do we stand on that? I mean, it gives people peace of mind, teachers, parents, students. Where are we standing on that?
Well, biggest thing right now is waiting for if Wisconsin's gonna qualify for the ESSER grants. So that's the biggest thing is the money gonna be there? So we'll hopefully know that Thursday. Because if the state doesn't make maintenance of effort, the feds pull the grants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the money isn't there yet. So that's probably the biggest,
Yep.
is once they issue the money in WISE grants,
Mm-hmm.
then the money's there. So that's probably the biggest holdup right now. There's a lot of systems out there. Once we know, the money, the allocations, then it's really gonna be up to you guys on where we go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Here's the question though, if you, like, if on one end, we're gonna say we don't want masks, but we're gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on air purification, what are we doing? what are we doing?
Well,
I
I
don't get
think,
that.
I think there is a happy medium on that though, Nick. I think that there are portable air filtration systems that can be moved around and utilized, and the last thing I want to do is spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on air purification. I think that would be ridiculous. But I think if that is a known way, like you say, for some peace of mind, for it works, it definitely mitigates the idea of transmission in a closed room. So I think it would be also irresponsible not to look at that kind of stuff. I guess I'm comfortable, especially moving forward, when this is mostly an adult forum with meetings, until we are getting closer to the school year and have to really get down to some policy, and Nick's thinking we can't wait too long for
I
that.
would not wait till August, because parents they want to know.
Wondering, but I guess I would, to your point, the last thing I want to do is spend 3 hours, and I could see that happening, of people just arguing back and forth, everybody's
All
own
it's gonna be.
opinion in terms of masks or not masks.
I have not seen a single district that engages in this have any reasonable outcome.
Nope.
Other than people coming to a board meeting screaming at board members and superintendents and principals. Nothing happens,
Right,
nothing. So what I'm saying is,
yeah,
if on one hand, we're sitting here saying masking is optional, right? And then the other, we have people saying, well, we still need to have air purifier. I'm just like,
well, I
because,
don't think it's.
because the next thing I can see though is the same thing that happened with the wind turbines, right? So now you have an air purifier in the classroom and that's emitting this, that, and the other thing, and it actually creates more problems. And I'm just, because I've been through that, right? So you have, it's the unintended consequences
Sure,
of making those types of decisions.
sure.
And my point, why put ourselves in that situation is my point.
Well, those will be discussions to come. I guess I would just like some kind of consensus for, because I think we all would like to go to open meetings. I think it's important. We have a July and August meeting for sure, prior to school opening. And at this point, we'll just say that masks are optional for those meetings. And that I think our policy committee is going to need to meet to decide how we're going to approach the coming year as far as teachers and students.
And I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to region by region. It's not going to be a school district thing, right?
But I think we need to get a lot more input from people
Sure.
outside of ourselves for that decision. Because then we are talking about children under 12 that don't have an option to get a vaccination and all that kind of stuff. So I think that is not the discussion of today. Today's is open meetings to public, and for right now, we
Right.
will say,
Put the mask on next. We need to get that taken care of.
Well, I mean, my last thing is like, the reason I say region though, is because what school district is going to say either side if they're not in the same boat as everybody else, right? Because that's what all the parents want to do right now. They want to force schools, they want to pit everybody
them
against each other, right?
Which is what
So-
you were saying. is-
We don't want to do that, and I can't imagine that this region is going to have an outlier say, we are going to requirement, because they will lose their funding, which is students, right? So I
Of
think
course,
that this whole
But I mean,
region,
how is WIAA going to look at it, and how is this and the other? I mean.
I think it's going to come the opposite way. I think it's going to be regions are going to say, this is what we're moving forward with, and I mean, I already hear them saying it, right? Nobody wants to be in the position.
Being alone.
Right, so it's gonna be masking optional. Right, that's what it's gonna be.
That's the general consensus of the CISA schools that I.
So will the WESB come out with a recommendation? That might be,
WASB?
yeah.
Well,
I
and
don't know if they will
from a
or not.
legal standpoint, I mean, again, masking optional, I think that's what we're gonna say at this point.
Mhm.
And then we will see if that changes, I guess, based on the input we get, legal and health department and the public health, you name it.
But there's-
Along those lines, are we looking to take advantage at all of the money that came in for testing? Are we gonna contact the public health or the,
To have testing available at school?
well, this is a new
Oh, yeah.
big thing that just came through that, that allows, I mean, it's not the old stuff. I mean, are we gonna inquire about it? Because I think the past was where you had to go and you had to have somebody trained and we had to get the little licensure and all of that. And I think this is offering an alternative to that.
So it's something new that they just came out with, where you can apply, and basically you're an on-site testing clinic.
Well, I think it's varied. It said it was gonna vary from school district to school district depending on what you wanted. And so I guess I just don't want us to not look into it, because it also sounded like they were, talking about the availability of doing testing if there was a certain incidence of infections, which hopefully we're never gonna start getting back into that. But if there is suddenly a resurgence of virus infections and things, it would be nice if the public health department could come and assist with doing testing at school versus having people have to run to their county or wherever to get their test.
Well, I saw today that Bellin applied for something where their regional sites would be that. So for us, I mean, that's, pretty close by. And then I can't anticipate you having more than, if you had 10 of them available a day, that would be a lot. And I think, again, that'll be coordination of those resources and, if there is some type of
Yeah.
event where that needs to be ramped up or something needs to be brought on site, then I think those decisions, having gone through this, will be made pretty quickly and they'll be mobilized.
I just got the impression through the WASPA site that it was something that you had to apply of your interest, and then it could be determined down the road how you wanted to use it.
And basically,
So-
it's, what it is us having rapid tests on site and them paying for it, is really what it is. We still have to take it somewhere to be processed.
I didn't get the impression that that was the only thing, but maybe that is.
Yeah, as far as I know that, unless you wanna go, you can go larger, but I don't know if we would ever,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Well, I just didn't want us to miss
Yeah.
out of some free opportunity by just not saying we're interested at all and getting more information, so. But I agree, I'm not proposing any big, and if there's something local and available to people. Are you talking with Bellin, are you talking the,
Yeah, they can apply to have those resources at their regional clinics, so I would assume Door County Medical would be the same, so you would have access to that pretty quickly if you identified that as a need, right? So,
okay. Yeah,
But
I
the
just, because that
procedures-
was a new, it seemed a little less complicated than the whole last thing.
I don't think the procedures would change though from that point on, right? Because my only thing is students identified positive at school, right? Again, people are thinking that, oh, we won't have all this stuff. I would think that the same protocols are going to be followed, right?
Well,
So
I
if the
guess
students-
the mindset behind what I heard this whole thing is that given they totally expect that flus and regular colds are gonna come back because they're going to. I mean, we eliminated them because everybody had to be masked. So people are gonna get colds, and when there are the symptoms that could be one or the other. The idea was if there could be a quick way of determining, so for the education, for the kids and for any teacher, if there was something where it was guaranteed either within 24 hours or even the couple-hour test, that it would allow for less, it would differentiate from somebody just that got the cold or is coming down with the flu versus COVID, so that they're not being put into all those restrictions. That was what, seemed to me, like, yeah, I mean, they're already seeing colds and flus again, so. All right, enough on that. So I think we have a consensus. So next meeting in July will be open, and mass will be optional. WASBA resolution submission. Do you want to talk about our, well, those are all the current ones. Bottom line, you want me to talk? I mean, we had talked about, we've never submitted a resolution from this district since I've been president. We've certainly, looked at the ones that have been thrown in there. I am a little disillusioned at, just the feeling of you give them all this information at the state and they don't do anything anyway. But, you can't give up. The two things that we had talked about in our meeting, number one was the getting the designation of a mental health professional. And we did go through the process of sort of writing something up and sending that to Kitchens. And, but would we, as a board, do you want our committee, because that's what, Pat and I were sort of talking about, if it has to sort of be a priority of the board, or the board has to agree and the administration has to agree it's a priority before we want to put any kind of work into trying to do this. So that designation, so that, we would be able to bill, would be one idea of a resolution. I think the other one was the idea of treating large districts and small districts differently in terms of overall funding. So
Special ed funding?
No, just in general, because special ed funding and all those kinds of things are all.
Yeah, the example would be why when the 5 largest superintendents issue a memo to the state that it gets blasted all over, but when 430 other school districts say something, it's not anything. That's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
I think it's time that we separate, because the reality in this state is that we have just starkly different realities, and it's not anything against them, but it's really difficult to compare Algoma to Madison Metropolitan School District. We have entirely different things that we're dealing with, so. And the funding, is a big issue. It's a big part of that.
So those are, they're both, well, one's funding, the other one is sort of funding, because it ultimately becomes funding. I think you had said, in our meeting, Nick, that, or maybe it was you, Jason, that that there has been talk about, I don't know, either or both of these from other organizations?
Wisconsin's Rural Schools Alliance is doing a lot of conversation around that particular point.
About the
And then,
different size school districts and.
And then there also is Association for Equity and Funding is always pushing at the fact that Wisconsin v. Voight basically determined that the school funding formula in Wisconsin is inequitable, so why the hell are we still doing it? So the Supreme Court determined that, but yet we still, support in a funding system that's not equitable.
Yeah, you're having trouble hearing. Go ahead.
I'm back on. I got cut off for about a couple minutes.
Okay.
So there are 2 entities that are focused on those specific things right now. So I think what I said in the meeting is the Wisconsin Rural Schools Alliance, they're actually gonna issue their kind of report or whatever at their convention in the fall.
Okay.
So, I mean, it might be something where you lend support to that, or the equity and funding piece is always, it's basically the same thing, right? Like,
Well, the way these resolutions work, I mean, I was looking into it a little bit, we submit our proposed resolution from the district to the WASBA group, and it's by September 15th, so I don't know how that would
sure.
dovetail into that other, so it would be sort of this wrong timing. So then they look at all the resolutions that are submitted by the districts and decide and vote on which ones they want to present to the whole delegate assembly.
Right.
So, maybe if the bigger one with the district size, maybe that could be, if they're gonna issue their report, then maybe that could be a next year push of, hey, we have this report, blah, 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 get WASBA behind it and try and push that for the next year.
Yeah.
But does the board, Jason, do you wanna try and explain, I think you're the best person to explain the dilemma with our mental health funding, the way the current is and why we would wanna try and have a resolution.
Sure. So with DPI, everything has to fall into codes. And that's really what it is, licenses and codes. And schools, for mental health professionals, recognize social workers, school psychologists, physical therapists, OT, all these different speech, all these different areas of expertise. There's a license for them, and there's a corresponding DPI code that goes along with it. What Nick was asking for was that basically, that's great. Our school psychologist does a great job. She has her own area of expertise, but it's not exactly what we're looking for when it comes to basically practicing mental health services for a student. So the problem with that is, though, is, so for example, we have someone coming in from Bellin, fantastic lady, she meets with our students. But as far as gain funding for a position like that in a school, there's no avenue, because she's not licensed by DPI. She doesn't have a license that is recognized by DPI. There's no way of claiming her on our special ed, so for general aid, categorical aid, any of those. So it's sort of a limbo category. So sure, they can increase mental health professionals, they can, social workers, school psychologists, all that kind of stuff, which is a needed area, but what Nick was asking for was people that deal directly with the students in a therapy setting, and is not recognized by DPI.
Right, they keep trying to say mental health funding, but the only categories that the schools can use it for are the school psychologists, which they, I guess, want to make believe it has all sorts of time to give therapy, but no, they're totally.
Almost 100% special ed.
Special ed, yeah. Assessments, right. The social workers, again, they want to say, okay, they'll increase all this money for mental health by, so you can get more social workers. Well, the social workers, school social workers are not trained mental health professionals and have no background or expertise in giving mental health therapy. And again, the school nurse, they can say, oh, well, the nurse, No, the school nurse does not have mental health, professional kind of things. So what Jason's saying is that if we would hire somebody to give these services that we think are so necessary, because Bellin comes in and it has a few hours, but we could fill a day or 2 days or 3 days. So wouldn't it be great if we could hire our own? There's no way right now through the state to bill for it.
Can I further what Jason's saying about that? I think it's more than roles of people. Algoma has established effective, successful programs in terms of reducing mental health. I think the definition of mental health needs to be reworded. When we think of mental health, I think traditionally it's therapists. And yes, we have students that need to see a therapist, but a therapist in my mind is like a surgeon. Not everybody needs to see a surgeon. Sometimes we have the on-site nurse that we just need to see prior to the actual surgery. And there are programs like our Wolf Den After School program. There our community youth advocate who uses the Connect the Dot programs. There are all sorts of preventative things that Algoma School District is doing that is currently needed to be funded and supported by grants and other entities, private donations. And I think what Nick is trying to get at, in addition to what Jason's saying, is it's all of those things that we don't define as mental health that we can't support through a school district because we need a code or a license.
Right. Well, and that's why we were hoping for a category, a new license for mental health professional, not defining it as one particular type of person, but to give the schools a category to bill.
For example, Nick said 7% our students did better in their social and emotional well-being that they are assessing in a school year, 7% better in a school year of a pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are doing something right in terms of mental health and emotional well-being in our program, but I would bet it's not going to the therapist and that all of our students are getting that service. It's the other support systems that we have that are not currently being funded by a school.
Right.
And that's what needs to be recognized. And I think we have data to pull for the letters that you created.
Right.
To showcase that.
So I guess it isn't just a problem of our district, it's every district. I mean, and the current licensure categories, school psychologist, school social worker, school nurse, I don't know, there's like 5 of them or whatever, have been the same the categories have been the same forever. I mean, and mental health is obviously recognized by the state as a significant problem. So maybe it is the time for them to add a new licensure category so that school districts can look to see what people they need to bring in for those services. So, do you think it is something we should, as a district, propose through a resolution?
Well, what do you have to lose?
Well, I mean, that's sort of what I feel.
And every district is in the same boat,
Every
so to speak.
district's in the same boat. I mean, everybody.
Up to the kitchen door, please.
Um,
Open up the kitchen door, please.
So bottom line is, I mean, it's like with any resolution that we go through as a delegate and listen to. Somebody has the resolution and has the stuff that backs it up, so.
It goes to the resolution committee, and then
If
they decide whether it's pass or fail.
And then basically, if it's something that's supported and the delegates vote for it, then it's something that WASBA then gets behind as an organization to try and push for. I think since it's not even just, it's a every district thing, and nobody has bothered to put the energy in it, I think that would be worth it. Maybe the other one will leave to those other organizations and maybe figuring out, but. Okay, so we have to.
And change the code, that's probably an easy fix. I think it's an easy fix.
You'd think.
You'd think.
Yeah, well, and then the other thing that Jason pointed out is it doesn't even take a lot of control out of the legislator, because all the categorical aids, they determine the percentage of reimbursement all the time. So, just because another category is added, doesn't suddenly mean it's fully funded.
No.
It could be 5% funded, you know, but it just would
But
be
it's 5%.
something. It'd be something versus nothing. Okay, so I guess you will need to call a meeting
Yep.
of our
Mhm.
group sometime, and we can pursue this.
Okay,
All right.
so we should probably do that. We'll talk about that after.
All right, we'll move on to action items. I need a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of May 24th, 2021, the Finance Committee meeting minutes of June 8th, 2021, and the Public Relations Marketing Committee meeting minutes of June 9th, 2021.
Also move.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the bills in our packet as well as those presented to us tonight.
So move.
Motion made by Pat. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joanne. Questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the budget revisions presented by Jason. Those were the three that he talked about.
So move.
Motion made by Mick. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the Fund 10 transfer of $793,125.24 to Fund 27 to finalize the fiscal year ending 6/30/21.
Roll call.
I so move.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Barb, this will give you a roll call.
It's a roll call vote.
What?
It's a roll call vote.
On the-
Oh, I'm
on the-
sorry.
On the transfers? Okay.
Oh, all right, I'm sorry. That's a roll call vote, Dave, so I'll start with you.
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Mick?
Yes.
And Pat?
Yep.
And I also say yes. All right, then this one will also be a roll call vote. We need a motion to approve the Fund 10 transfer of $75,000 to Fund 46.
I'll move.
Okay, motion made by Joanne. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ann. Roll call vote. Dave?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Joanne?
Yes.
Mick?
Yes.
Yes.
Ann?
Yep.
Pat? And I also say yes. Motion carries. And I need a motion to approve the preliminary 2021-2022 budget of $8,877,520.
So
I
move.
would make that motion, Madam President.
Okay, Dave?
I'll second it.
And a second by Pat. Roll call vote. Dave?
Yes.
Yes. Jennifer? Joanne?
Yes.
Yes.
Mick?
Yes.
Ann? Pat?
Yep.
And I also say yes. Motion carries. I need a motion to approve special use of facility request for JV 1 volleyball quad on Wednesday, August 25th, 2021.
So move.
Motion made by Pat. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joanne. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Request for future agenda items.
I would like to request that the Policy and Practice Committee meet in July and bring to us in July what the recommendation is for masks.
Yep.
I think we should have that settled in July. Otherwise, it goes to August and school will start.
Too late. Yep.
It's too late. So I think we need to get that on that July agenda.
Okay. All right. So we will need to schedule that
Be
meeting.
sure the website goes on there.
And the website, we already talked about in terms of approval of the, of this redesign.
Wait.
Anything else? Okay, I need a motion to go into executive session under Wisconsin Statute 19.85 subsection 1C, E, F, and I for the purpose of personnel matters, hires, staffing, resignations.
I so moved.
I'll
Motion made by Jennifer, seconded by Joanne. Roll call vote, Dave,
Yes.
Jennifer, Joanne.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. I also say yes.